Ethan Clark adjusted his collar nervously as the alien-shut shimmering doors slid open before him. Beyond the threshold lay a vast hall bathed in a fiery orange glow, its walls pulsating with the energy of molten veins running through alien stone. The heat was almost unbearable, and yet Ethan forced himself to step forward. This was no time to falter. Humanity's survival depended on him. As his boots clinked against the metallic floor, all eyes in the room turned toward him. Rows of Tarlithian warriors stood like statues, their fiery skin radiating an intense heat that made the air shimmer. Their glowing orange eyes followed his every move, unblinking, as if daring him to make a mistake. Each warrior held a weapon that seemed to hum with the same energy that pulsed through the room. Ethan's heart raced, but he kept his expression calm. He had trained for this moment, though nothing could prepare him for the sheer intensity of it. At the far end of the hall, elevated on a dais surrounded by swirling flames, sat Princess Vela. Her presence was otherworldly. Her skin glowed like embers, shifting between shades of crimson and gold, while her long fiery hair flowed as if it were alive. She was beautiful and terrifying all at once. Ethan felt a lump form in his throat as their eyes met. Her gaze was piercing, as if she could see straight into his soul. Human, she spoke, her voice resonating with a deep, melodic power. You have come seeking peace, yet you stand here, fragile and weak, in a place where your kind does not belong. Ethan bowed slightly, his movements careful and measured. Princess Vela, I come as a representative of Earth, bringing words of hope and cooperation. We believe that together, our worlds can achieve greatness. Vela tilted her head, a faint smirk playing on her lips. Hope, cooperation, these are soft words, human. The Tarlithian way values strength above all else. Words alone will not sway us. The tension in the room thickened. Ethan could feel the heat intensify, the very air pressing against his skin like a warning. But he held his ground. Strength is not always measured in battle, he replied. Sometimes it is the courage to stand before an overwhelming force and seek understanding instead of war. The warriors around the hall exchanged glances, their expressions unreadable. Vela leaned forward, her fiery aura flaring slightly. Bold words, she said, her voice quieter now, but no less dangerous. And yet, you enter our sacred hall without understanding our customs. Before Ethan could respond, a servant approached him with a glowing orb, gesturing for him to take it. Unsure of its purpose but unwilling to appear disrespectful, Ethan reached out and took the orb. The moment his fingers made contact, the orb shattered in a burst of fiery light, and the room fell silent. Vela's eyes narrowed, and the flames around her throne surged higher. Do you know what you have done, human? She demanded, her voice sharp and unforgiving. Ethan's mind raced as he struggled to understand. I only accepted what was given to me, he stammered. That orb was a symbol of unity, to be placed before the throne as a gesture of humility. Vela explained, her tone icy despite the heat. By breaking it, you have insulted the royal bloodline and our sacred traditions. Ethan felt the weight of the room's gaze on him, the warriors' hands tightening around their weapons. Panic threatened to take hold, but he forced himself to remain calm. Princess, I had no intention of causing offense. Please, allow me to make amends. Vela rose from her throne, her fiery hair crackling with energy. You speak of amends, yet you stand here ignorant of what you've done. The Tarlithian way demands that such insults be answered. The hall erupted in murmurs as the warriors whispered among themselves. Ethan felt sweat bead on his brow, the heat now almost unbearable. Then tell me, Princess, he said, his voice steady despite the fear gripping him. What must I do to prove my sincerity? The room fell silent once more as Vela regarded him with a mixture of curiosity and disdain. There is a ritual, she said slowly, her eyes locking onto his. A trial to test your courage and resolve. But know this, human. Failure means death. Ethan's heart pounded in his chest, but he didn't look away. If that is what it takes to earn your trust, I will face it. Vela's lips curved into a faint smile, though her eyes remained cold. Very well, she said, her voice carrying an edge of amusement. Prepare yourself, Ethan Clark. The trial of heat will determine whether you are worthy of standing before the Tarlithian court. As the warriors parted to make way for him, Ethan squared his shoulders and stepped forward. The path ahead was uncertain, and the stakes had never been higher. But one thing was clear. This was only the beginning. The challenge. The grand hall seemed to darken as Ethan was led away from the throne room, escorted by 2 Tarlithian guards whose fiery skin illuminated the path ahead. Their silence was unnerving, each step echoing ominously in the metallic corridor. Ethan's mind raced. He had survived countless diplomatic crises before, but this was entirely out of his depth. What was the trial of heat, and how could he possibly prepare for something so alien, so dangerous? The corridor ended at an enormous, intricately carved door, glowing faintly with the same molten energy he had seen throughout the Tarlithian palace. One of the guards pressed a fiery hand to the surface, and the door rumbled open, revealing a vast chamber that seemed alive with fire. Ethan stepped inside hesitantly, his breath catching as he took in the scene. The chamber was a maze of molten rivers, jagged obsidian walls, and platforms that floated above bubbling pools of lava. The air shimmered with heat, distorting the space in front of him like a mirage. Above it all, suspended on a platform in the center of the chamber, was a glowing orb radiating blinding light. It was unlike anything he had ever seen, pulsating like a living heart. "This is the trial of heat," a voice boomed, reverberating through the chamber. Ethan turned to see Princess Vela standing on a high ledge, her fiery aura blazing even brighter than before. Her expression was cold, but there was a flicker of something else in her eyes. Curiosity, perhaps. "You must retrieve the orb of unity," Vela continued, her voice steady and commanding. "It is the only way to prove your sincerity and courage. But beware, human. The path is treacherous, and the flames will test your every weakness." Ethan swallowed hard. "And what happens if I fail?" he asked, though he already suspected the answer. Vela's smirk was almost imperceptible. "Failure means you will become one with the flames. The orb accepts only those with unshakable resolve." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Ethan's gaze shifted back to the maze, his heart pounding in his chest. He could feel the heat pressing against his skin, suffocating and relentless. "Why do you test me like this?" he called out, his voice echoing through the chamber. "I came here to build peace, not to prove my worth through death-defying stunts." Vela's expression hardened. "You insulted our traditions, human. Words alone cannot erase that. Actions speak louder. If you wish to prove your intentions, step forward. If not, leave and never return." Ethan clenched his fists. The stakes were impossibly high, but there was no turning back now. Earth was counting on him. Taking a deep breath, he stepped onto the first platform. It wobbled slightly under his weight, and he quickly realized that balance would be critical. The heat intensified, and sweat dripped down his face as he leaped to the next platform. Beneath him, the molten rivers hissed and bubbled ominously. The path was far from straightforward. Some platforms rotated as he landed, forcing him to adapt his footing quickly. Others emitted bursts of flame that seared the air around him, missing him by mere inches. His muscles burned with effort, and every step felt like a gamble. At one point, he reached a narrow ledge that required him to crawl along its edge, the heat from the lava below scorching his hands. The orb seemed impossibly far away, but he pushed on, refusing to let doubt consume him. "Interesting," Vela murmured from her perch, watching his progress intently. Her fiery eyes followed his every move, and for a moment she seemed almost impressed. Halfway through the trial, Ethan encountered his greatest challenge yet, a series of platforms that sank the moment he landed on them. He would have to move quickly, but the timing was unpredictable. With no other choice, He leaped, barely making it to the next platform before it dipped into the lava. His mind raced as he calculated each jump, his survival instincts kicking in. This wasn't just about strength. It was about strategy, endurance, and a willingness to take risks. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Ethan reached the central platform. The orb of unity pulsed before him, its glow almost blinding. He hesitated, his hand hovering just above its surface. "Take it," Vela's voice echoed through the chamber. "If your heart is true, it will accept you. If not—" Ethan didn't need her to finish the sentence. Closing his eyes, he thought of Earth, of its people, its beauty, its fragility. He thought of why he was here and the lives that hung in the balance. With a deep breath, he placed his hand on the orb. The room erupted in flames, and a searing heat enveloped him. For a moment, he thought he was done for. But then the flames subsided, and a strange warmth spread through him. A warmth that didn't burn but instead felt empowering. When he opened his eyes, the orb of unity was in his hands, its light now calm and steady. The Tarlithian warriors let out a collective gasp, and even Vela's stoic expression faltered for a moment. "You have passed," she said, her voice softer now. "But this is only the beginning, human." Ethan collapsed to his knees, the orb still clutched tightly in his hands. He had survived the trial of heat, but the princess's words lingered ominously. What other challenges awaited him in this fiery world? The impossible bargain. The silence in the chamber was deafening as Ethan stood with the orb of unity still clutched tightly in his trembling hands. His body ached from the ordeal, his skin slick with sweat, but he had survived. The Tarlithian warriors around him murmured in astonishment, their fiery eyes flicking between him and Princess Vela. The princess descended from her high perch, her steps deliberate and commanding. As she approached, her fiery aura dimmed slightly, yet it was no less intimidating. Ethan straightened, trying to ignore the exhaustion weighing him down. "You have proven your strength and resolve, human," Vela said, her voice carrying a hint of something unexpected. "Respect. The orb of unity has accepted you. It recognizes your courage and sincerity. But this alone is not enough to erase the insult you have dealt my people." Ethan's jaw tightened. "I faced your trial. I risked my life to show my intentions are pure. What more must I do?" The princess's golden eyes locked onto his, unyielding. "Words and trials are only the beginning, Ethan Clark. The bond between our people requires something far greater, a gesture that transcends fear, a display of unity so profound that it cannot be doubted." Ethan felt a chill run down his spine despite the oppressive heat of the chamber. What kind of gesture? The room fell eerily silent as Vela's gaze softened, almost imperceptibly. "A kiss," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, but carrying immense weight. "A human kiss upon the skin of a Tarlithian royal. It is an ancient symbol of trust and unity, but no outsider has ever dared to attempt it." Ethan blinked, caught off guard. "A kiss." Vela nodded, her fiery hair crackling softly. "Our flames are not just for destruction. They are the essence of our being, a reflection of our soul. To touch a Tarlithian royal's skin is to face the very core of who we are. If you are truly sincere, your heart will guide you, and the flames will not harm you. But if there is even a shred of deceit—" She didn't need to finish. The meaning was clear. The flames would consume him entirely if he failed. Ethan's mind raced. The idea was absurd, yet he could see the gravity of her words. The Tarlithians valued strength and sincerity above all else, and this symbolic act represented both. But it was more than just dangerous. It was intimate, a connection that bridged two entirely different worlds. "I've already risked my life in your trial," Ethan said, his voice steady despite his inner turmoil. "Now you're asking me to risk my very soul." Vela stepped closer, her fiery aura flickering gently, like a candle in the wind. "This is not about us, human. This is about your people and mine. The kiss will prove whether you truly believe in unity or if your words are hollow. Ethan hesitated, the weight of her words settling over him. He thought of Earth, its blue skies, its oceans, its people. He thought of the responsibility he carried, the hope of billions resting on his shoulders. But then he thought of her, this fierce and fiery princess who stood before him, her presence both a challenge and an invitation. "And if I refuse?" he asked finally, his voice low. Vela's expression hardened. "Then our negotiations end here. You will leave, and we will consider Earth unworthy of our alliance. The peace you sought will be nothing more than a fleeting dream." The ultimatum hit him like a blow. There was no turning back now. The fate of humanity rested on his decision. He looked into Vela's eyes, searching for any sign of deception or malice, but all he saw was conviction and a flicker of something else, hope. "I'll do it," Ethan said at last, his voice resolute. The chamber erupted in murmurs once more, the Tarlithian warriors exchanging stunned glances. Vela tilted her head, studying him closely. "You do not hesitate," she said, a hint of curiosity in her tone. "There's no room for hesitation when lives are at stake," Ethan replied. Vela nodded, her expression unreadable. "Very well. The ceremony will take place at dawn. Prepare yourself, human. The flames will test you like nothing you've ever faced before." As the guards escorted him back to his quarters, Ethan couldn't shake the weight of what lay ahead. A kiss. It sounded so simple, so human, and yet it was anything but. This was no ordinary kiss. It was a leap of faith into the heart of an alien's fiery essence, a test that would determine the future of two worlds. He spent the night in restless contemplation. The image of Vela's glowing eyes burned into his mind. Was she as unyielding as she seemed, or was there more to her? Could this act truly bridge the divide between their peoples? When dawn came, Ethan stood in the ceremonial hall once more, the flames casting long shadows around him. Vela approached, her fiery aura radiating power and grace. "Are you ready?" she asked, her voice calm but firm. Ethan nodded, his heart pounding. "As ready as I'll ever be." Vela stepped closer, her aura intensifying. "Then let the flames decide." The build-up. The ceremonial hall was empty now, save for Ethan and a lone Tarlithian elder whose fiery skin had dimmed with age, leaving behind faint embers that barely flickered. The elder introduced himself as Karen, the Keeper of Flames, a guide for those facing the most profound trials of Tarlithian tradition. Ethan sat cross-legged before him on the polished obsidian floor, the heat of the surrounding lava pools making the air shimmer. Karen studied him silently for a long moment before speaking. "You are either very brave or very foolish, human," he said, his voice crackling like dry wood in a fire. "Maybe a little of both," Ethan admitted, wiping the sweat from his brow. Karen gave a dry laugh, the sound echoing softly. "You have accepted a trial that no outsider has ever dared to face. A kiss upon the royal flames is no simple act. It is a merging of essences, a test of purity, trust, and connection. If you are insincere, the flames will reject you, and your body will burn to ash." Ethan nodded. He'd already heard this warning from Princess Vela, but hearing it again from the elder made the weight of the challenge even heavier. "Then teach me," he said, his voice steady. "Help me understand what I'm walking into." Karen leaned forward, his glowing eyes narrowing. "The flames of a Tarlithian royal are not merely heat. They are life itself, a manifestation of the soul. To touch them is to share in their essence, to see their truths, and allow them to see yours. This is why the gesture is sacred. It cannot be faked, and it cannot be forced. The flames will know." Ethan exhaled slowly, trying to absorb the elder's words. "So how do I prepare? How do I ensure the flames accept me?" The elder tilted his head, as though pondering the question. "Your heart must be steady, your intentions pure. You must approach without fear or doubt. The flames respond to emotions. If you are calm, they will calm. If you are afraid, they will grow wild." "That's easy for you to say," Ethan muttered, glancing at the swirling lava below. Karen gave a small smirk. "Indeed, but I will help you. Close your eyes." Ethan hesitated but complied, shutting out the glowing chamber around him. Karen's voice softened, becoming almost hypnotic. "Focus on your breathing. The flames are alive, yes, but so are you. You are no different from the fire. Both of you are energy, life, and light. Imagine yourself as one with it, not separate." At first, Ethan found it difficult to concentrate. The heat, the stakes, and his own doubts buzzed in his mind like an annoying static. But gradually, Karen's words began to sink in. He pictured the flames not as an enemy but as a companion. He imagined their warmth not as a threat but as a guiding light. Hours passed as Karen guided him through the mental exercise. Ethan felt his body relax, the tension in his shoulders easing. For the first time since arriving on Tarlithia, he felt a strange sense of peace. "You are learning," Karen said finally, breaking the silence. "But the true test lies ahead." As Ethan opened his eyes, he saw that Karen's expression had softened. "You are different from the others who have come to this world," the elder said. "You may be human, but your resolve, it burns brighter than I expected. Perhaps you are more suited for this trial than even the princess realizes." Ethan frowned. "The princess? She doesn't believe I can do it, does she?" Karen's lips curled into a knowing smile. "Vela is proud, but pride often hides uncertainty. She sees potential in you, but she also fears what failure could mean. For you, for your people, and for herself. The kiss is not just a test for you, human. It is a test for her as well." Ethan hadn't considered that angle. Could Vela be struggling with this challenge as much as he was? The thought made him pause. "Why would she fear?" Ethan asked cautiously. Karen stood, his dim flames flickering slightly as he turned toward the chamber's exit. "The flames reveal truths, Ethan Clark. For a Tarlithian royal, to share their essence is to bear their soul. She risks as much as you do, if not more. Remember that when you stand before her." As dawn approached, Ethan returned to his quarters, his mind a whirlwind of thoughts. He replayed Karen's words, the elder's cryptic hints about Vela's fears, and the stakes of the kiss. He paced the room, trying to center himself as the ceremony loomed closer. When the moment finally arrived, the ceremonial hall was packed with Tarlithian warriors and nobles. The air crackled with anticipation, the glowing flames casting long shadows on the walls. Princess Vela stood at the center of the hall, her fiery aura brighter than Ethan had ever seen. She looked every bit the unyielding leader, yet there was something in her eyes that gave her away. A flicker of vulnerability, quickly masked by her stern expression. As Ethan stepped forward, the crowd fell silent. His heart raced, but he forced himself to remain calm, to focus on everything Karen had taught him. He would approach the flames not as an outsider, but as an equal. "You are ready?" Vela asked, her voice steady, but quieter than usual. Ethan nodded, meeting her gaze. "I am." The flames around her flared, brighter and hotter, as if testing his resolve. But this time, Ethan didn't flinch. Instead, he took a step closer, his mind calm, his heart steady. The world seemed to hold its breath as Ethan reached out, his hand inches from her fiery skin. "Then let the bond begin," Vela whispered, her voice almost trembling. The kiss. The ceremonial hall was ablaze with light, the air thick with tension and heat. Every Tarlithian noble, warrior, and elder stood silent, their fiery auras subdued in deference to the gravity of the moment. Ethan stood in the center of it all, his gaze locked onto Princess Vela. She was radiant, her fiery aura burning brighter than the sun, her eyes glowing with a mix of challenge and something Ethan couldn't quite place: curiosity, hesitation. Ethan's heart pounded in his chest as he stepped forward. The heat radiating from Vela was unlike anything he had felt before. It wasn't just physical warmth. It was alive, pulsating with energy and purpose. He remembered Karin's words. The flames will respond to your heart. If you fear them, they will destroy you. If you accept them, they will embrace you. You stand before me, human, ready to do what no outsider has ever dared. Vela said, her voice strong but tinged with an edge of uncertainty. You claim to seek unity, but unity requires more than words. It demands trust, courage, and sacrifice. Ethan nodded, swallowing the lump in his throat. I understand, he said, though he wasn't sure he fully did. But I also believe that unity is worth any price. Her fiery eyes narrowed, studying him as though searching for cracks in his resolve. Then, with a slight tilt of her head, she gestured for him to approach. The crowd murmured softly as Ethan took a step closer, and then another. The heat grew more intense with each step, as if the flames were testing him, daring him to retreat. Sweat poured down his face, his body trembling from the sheer pressure, but he kept moving forward. When he was only a foot away, Vela raised her hand, and the hall fell silent once more. Ethan Clark, she said, her voice softer now, almost a whisper. You do this not just for yourself, but for your people. Know that the flames do not lie. They will judge your soul as much as your actions. Ethan nodded again, his throat dry. He could feel the flames licking at the edges of his consciousness, testing his resolve. For a moment, he hesitated, doubt creeping in. What if he wasn't pure enough? What if the flames rejected him, and he failed not just himself, but all of Earth? Then he remembered the faces of the people he was doing this for, the billions of lives depending on him. He thought of the nights spent staring at the stars, wondering if peace with the Tarlithians was even possible. He thought of Vela, standing before him now, a symbol of everything alien and yet something more. Taking a deep breath, he stepped even closer until he could feel the searing heat of her aura against his skin. I'm ready, he said, his voice steady despite the storm inside him. Vela's expression shifted, a flicker of surprise crossing her face before she masked it. Then let the flames decide, she said, and she leaned forward, her fiery hair crackling like a living flame. Ethan raised his hand to her cheek, his skin tingling as he got closer to the fiery glow. The moment his fingers brushed her skin, he expected pain, searing, unbearable pain. Instead, he felt warmth. Intense, yes, but not hostile. It was as if the flames were curious, probing him, testing his sincerity. He took another deep breath and leaned in, his lips brushing against her cheek. The reaction was instantaneous. The room erupted in light as Vela's flames surged, enveloping them both in a blinding blaze. Gasps and shouts echoed through the hall as the onlookers shielded their eyes from the intensity. Ethan felt the heat consume him, his entire body burning, not with pain, but with something else entirely. For a moment, he felt as though he were floating, his mind bombarded with visions. He saw glimpses of Vela's world, her childhood, her struggles, her loneliness as a leader burdened with the expectations of her people. He saw the pride she took in her strength, but also the vulnerability she kept hidden from everyone, even herself. And then he felt her flames reaching into him, exploring his own memories. He saw flashes of Earth, the beauty of its oceans and forests, the faces of the people he loved. He felt her touch his fears, his doubts, his pain, and then his hope, burning brighter than anything else. When the light finally dimmed, Ethan found himself still standing, his hand still on Vela's cheek. The hall was silent, the onlookers staring in stunned disbelief. Vela's flames had changed. They were no longer blazing wildly, but instead shimmered softly, like a calm fire on a cold night. Vela stepped back, her fiery gaze meeting his. For the first time, she looked almost human. You, she began, her voice barely audible. You have passed the flames test. They have accepted you. Ethan exhaled shakily, his body trembling but whole. Does that mean? Vela nodded, a faint smile breaking through her usual stern expression. You have proven yourself. Ethan Clark, you are worthy of standing beside the Tarlithian people." The crowd erupted into cheers and murmurs, the sound echoing through the hall. But Ethan barely heard them. All he could focus on was the look in Vela's eyes, a mixture of awe, respect, and something deeper, something unspoken. The kiss had changed more than just their fates. It had forged a connection, one that neither of them fully understood but could no longer deny. The transformation. The air in the hall remained thick with astonishment as Ethan stepped back, his hand still tingling from where it had touched Vela's fiery cheek. The flames that had erupted moments ago now swirled gently around the two of them, like a protective cocoon. Ethan's chest rose and fell with labored breaths, but he was unscathed, a miracle in the eyes of the Tarlithians. Princess Vela remained still, her fiery aura shimmering in a way that seemed softer. Her gaze was locked on Ethan, and for the first time, the unyielding intensity in her golden eyes had given way to something more human. Her voice, steady and commanding just moments before, now carried a hint of wonder. "You are not like the others," she said, her words almost a whisper. "The flames did not reject you. They accepted you." Ethan, still reeling from the ordeal, struggled to find his voice. I felt them," he managed, his words halting. "They weren't just fire. They were alive. They showed me things, memories, feelings." Vela's eyes widened slightly, her fiery hair crackling softly. "What did you see?" she asked, her tone cautious yet curious. Ethan hesitated, unsure of how much to reveal. The visions he'd experienced during the kiss had been deeply personal, both his and hers. He had seen Vela's loneliness as a leader, her hidden fears of failure, and the weight of her people's expectations. He had felt her pride, her strength, but also her yearning for connection. "I saw you," he said finally, his voice gentle. "Your world, your struggles, your strength. And I felt your trust. It was like the flames were showing me who you are." Vela blinked, her expression momentarily vulnerable, but she quickly straightened, her royal demeanor returning. "The flames do not lie," she said, her voice regaining its authority. "They reveal truth, even when we do not wish to see it." The crowd around them, which had remained silent until now, erupted into murmurs. The Tarlithian warriors exchanged astonished glances, their fiery auras flickering with uncertainty. One elder stepped forward, his glowing skin dimmed with age. "Princess Vela," the elder said, his voice resonating with quiet authority. "This human has achieved what none before him have dared. He has forged a bond with the royal flames. This is unprecedented." Vela turned to face her people, her gaze sweeping over the crowd. "Yes," she said, her voice carrying over the murmurs. "Ethan Clark has proven himself worthy. The flames have chosen him, and so shall we." The hall fell silent once more, the weight of her words sinking in, but Ethan wasn't sure what this truly meant, until Vela turned back to him, her expression unreadable. "The bond forged by the flames is not just symbolic," she explained, her tone measured. "It is a connection, a merging of essences. You are no longer just a human, Ethan Clark. The flames have touched you, and their power now resides within you." Ethan frowned, confused. "What do you mean?" Vela raised her hand, and a small flame danced in her palm. "Our flames are not just heat. They are life itself, a manifestation of our souls. When the flames accepted you, they gave you a part of that essence. You are changed." Ethan glanced down at his hands, flexing his fingers. He didn't feel different, just tired, overwhelmed, and still grappling with the magnitude of what had happened. But as he focused, he noticed a faint golden glow emanating from his skin. "What is this?" he asked, his voice tinged with awe. Vela stepped closer, her fiery aura brushing against him like a warm breeze. "It is the mark of the flames. A piece of Tarlithian energy now flows within you. It will protect you, strengthen you, and bind you to our people." The realization hit Ethan like a tidal wave. He had come to Tarlithia as a diplomat, hoping to negotiate peace. But now he was something more, a bridge between two worlds, a living symbol of unity. "But why me?" he asked, looking into Vela's eyes. "Why did the flames choose me?" Vela hesitated, her gaze softening. "Perhaps because you were willing to risk everything. Perhaps because your heart was true. Or perhaps," she paused, her voice faltering, "perhaps because the flames saw what I see. A human capable of greatness, despite his flaws." The words hung in the air, their meaning deeper than Ethan could fully comprehend. But before he could respond, the elder stepped forward again. "Princess," the elder said, bowing slightly, "this bond is a gift, but it is also a responsibility. The human must now fulfill his role in our alliance. The flames have made their choice, but the path ahead remains uncertain." Vela nodded, her expression resolute. "You are right, Curran. The flames may have accepted him, but the bond must be nurtured. Ethan Clark, your journey with the Tarlithian people is far from over. The trials you have faced are only the beginning." Ethan felt the weight of her words, but he met her gaze with determination. "I didn't come here expecting this," he said, his voice steady. "But if this is what it takes to bring peace between our worlds, I'll see it through." Vela's lips curved into a faint smile, one that held a hint of respect, and perhaps something more. "Then let us see what the future holds, human. Together." A new alliance. The Tarlithian capital glowed with the soft, molten light of its twin moons, casting long shadows across the volcanic ridges that surrounded the Grand Palace. Ethan stood on a high balcony overlooking the city, the heat of the lava rivers below a constant reminder of how alien this world was. And yet, it no longer felt entirely foreign. The mark of the flames still glowed faintly on his hands, a subtle reminder of the trial he had endured and the bond he now shared with Princess Vela and her people. He flexed his fingers, feeling the warmth radiate through his veins, a sensation that had become both comforting and empowering. Behind him, the sound of soft footsteps interrupted his thoughts. Ethan turned to see Vela approaching, her fiery aura subdued but still radiant in the moonlight. She was dressed in ceremonial robes of shimmering obsidian and gold, her hair crackling softly as it flowed like living fire. For a moment, Ethan was struck by how regal and human she appeared. "You've been quiet," Vela said, her voice carrying a rare gentleness. "Are you regretting your choice?" Ethan shook his head, managing a small smile. "No regrets. Just a lot to process. A week ago, I was an ordinary diplomat trying to negotiate peace. Now, I'm standing here with flames in my veins and the weight of two worlds on my shoulders." Vela chuckled softly, the sound warm and unexpectedly reassuring. "Welcome to leadership," she said. "It is a burden we both carry now, but it is also an opportunity. Together, we can forge something stronger than either of us could achieve alone." Ethan nodded, his gaze returning to the city below. "Do you think your people will accept this alliance?" Vela's expression grew thoughtful. "They are proud, stubborn, and slow to trust. But they have seen the flames accept you. They have witnessed your courage. In time, they will come to understand what I now believe, that you are more than just a human. You are a bridge between our worlds." The weight of her words settled over him, but before he could respond, a messenger entered the balcony, bowing deeply. "Princess Vela, the council awaits your presence. They are ready to hear the terms of the alliance." Vela straightened, her aura flaring slightly. "Thank you. Tell them we will join them shortly." The messenger nodded and left, leaving Ethan and Vela alone once more. "I hope you're ready," Vela said, turning to Ethan. "The council will test you. They will question your worthiness, your motives, and your strength. They will not make this easy." Ethan met her gaze, his own resolve hardening. "Let them test me. I've already faced your flames. I'm not afraid of words." Vela's lips curved into a small, approving smile. "Good. Then let us face them together. The Council of Flames. The council chamber was an imposing space, its walls carved from black obsidian and adorned with glowing rooms that pulsed with fiery energy. 12 Tarlithian elders sat in a semicircle, their fiery auras glowing with varying intensities. At the center of the chamber stood a circular platform, where Ethan and Vela now stood side by side. The head elder, Karin, rose from his seat. His dim flames flickered as he spoke, his voice calm but authoritative. Princess Vela, you bring before us a human, a creature of water and flesh, unsuited for our flames. And yet, he stands unharmed. Explain this. Vela stepped forward, her voice steady and commanding. Ethan Clark has proven himself through the trial of heat. The flames have accepted him, marking him as one of us in spirit. He represents not just his people, but a new future for Tarlithia, a future of unity and shared strength. Another elder, her aura blazing brighter than the others, narrowed her eyes. Unity with humans. They are fragile, weak, and prone to deception. How can we trust them to honor such an alliance? Ethan felt the weight of their gazes, but he refused to flinch. He stepped forward, his voice firm but respectful. I understand your doubts. Humans have flaws. We make mistakes. We struggle. We fall. But we also rise. We learn. And when we find something worth fighting for, we don't give up. I came here seeking peace because I believe our worlds are stronger together than apart, and I'm willing to prove that, no matter how long it takes. The council murmured among themselves, their fiery eyes scrutinizing him. Karen raised a hand, silencing the room. Ethan Clark, the flames have accepted you. That alone carries great weight, but words and marks are not enough to build trust. If this alliance is to succeed, you must commit yourself fully to our people. What does that mean? Ethan asked, his brow furrowing. It means you must return to Tarlithia, Karin said. Not as an outsider, but as an emissary, a bridge between our worlds. You will live among us, learn our ways, and prove through action that your intentions are true. Only then will the alliance be solidified. Ethan hesitated, the enormity of the request sinking in. To leave Earth, to immerse himself in an alien culture, to dedicate himself entirely to this bond. It was a daunting prospect. But then he looked at Vela, her expression resolute, but tinged with an unspoken hope. I accept, Ethan said, his voice unwavering. If that's what it takes to build trust, I'll do it. The council exchanged glances, their murmurs growing louder. Finally, Karin nodded. So be it. The council approves the alliance, with the understanding that your commitment will be tested in the days to come. A new journey. As the council dispersed, Ethan and Vela walked side by side through the palace corridors. The tension of the council meeting had lifted, replaced by a quiet determination. You didn't have to agree so quickly, Vela said, her tone softer now. This will not be an easy path. Ethan glanced at her, a small smile playing on his lips. Nothing about this has been easy. But if there's one thing I've learned, it's that the hardest paths often lead to the most important destinations. Vela stopped, turning to face him fully. You continue to surprise me, Ethan Clark. Perhaps the flames chose well after all. Ethan met her gaze, the connection between them undeniable, and maybe we'll prove to both our worlds that they were right. As they walked toward the dawn of a new alliance, the flames of unity burned brightly within them, a symbol of the journey they had just begun, and the challenges yet to come.